I'm going to be talking to you today about multi-effects for live performance. And there's a lot of stuff out there that already exists, third-party stuff. You know, I'm talking about things that do a whole range of different effects, mainly dealing with audio samples that you feed through it. But I'm going to be showing you kind of my take on it. I've kind of built a machine using just native components and a very slight Simple Max for Live patch, and I think it's an interesting topic. But the whole concept starts with dummy clips. Okay, so the whole concept behind a dummy clip is it sits over an audio track, doesn't actually play any audio whatsoever, but it still allows you to change parameters within something that is on that audio track. So as an example, if I create an audio track here, I've got a little beat and a bass line here. Let me play that for you, make sure the sound's working. Just bring in the beat. And I've purposely chosen something that I'm making which has a really angry bass and lots of variation so I can explain how this works. So I've created an audio track, and what I can do is go into my routings here, and I can take the audio from this, let's say this bass track here that I've got. So now the audio is coming from this particular bass track. So if I turn the monitoring in and hit play, that's all good, but what I can also do is I can send the audio to from this bass track. So I'm sending the audio to this theory audio track, which I should really rename dummy. So now when I play this, the bass is going, it's not going through the master anymore, it's getting routed through this new audio track that I've created. And that's good. So I mean, I can turn it off now. So everything that I do on this dummy track is now going to apply to this bass. Great, so now I can do something like I can add an effect, and I'm going to be using a phaser here, just because it's a nice, easy to hear effect for us. And I can move the frequency around and you'll hear it change the bass. Now that's awesome, but what we can do with these actual dummy clips is I can simply arm this track and record, say, just a 1-bar loop. And there we go. And you'll see how this loop is actually clear now. It doesn't have a color. And that's because the audio is actually taken over by this bass. Because I'm sending the audio of this bass track to this dummy track, it means that this has now been taken over. So this clip will not actually produce any audio. Even though you can see audio, you can see a waveform there, it's not actually going to be producing anything. However, it will still play, and it will still allow us to use modulation envelopes over the clip, which means we can change any parameter within this phaser using this blank clip. Now, usually I just use completely and utterly blank clips, but it's just really easy to just hit record and record a 1-bar loop. Really doesn't matter what content it is in here. In fact, I could bring this right down so you can't see anything. So, for example, this dummy clip, right, okay, that frequency on that phaser, that was fun to play with. So if I once I've just messed with that parameter, if I double click on my clip now, you'll notice the phaser frequency is being selected because it was the last thing I tried to mess with. And we have a nice line now that corresponds to that particular effect. So I can move this around just like I did with the actual parameter on the device. But that's cool. So let's say I'll leave that there. Now I can duplicate this by holding down Option, duplicate the clip, and we've got a brand new one. For this brand new one, let's move it to here. Oh. And let's do it again. So I'm just going to select 4 points, 4 different kind of, 4 different values for that frequency setting. And now, of course, if I play that one, move that one, it changes the frequency for us. Like so. And you don't have to have exact values as well. I can just add some points in, and let's just do a quick kind of sweep here. So now, and if I go back into this phaser, you can see it's moving around for us. So that's the basic idea of dummy clips, and I'm pretty sure they were originally just kind of a hack. I mean, I don't think it was something that Ableton really intended to have people use, but someone figured this out. I don't actually know who came up with it originally, but it's a really awesome way of, especially in live performance, you can basically create presets of all the parameters of a device, or as many devices as you want, and you can just kind of trigger a clip to have a particular sequence of parameters, which is neat. So that's all cool. So that's just one here. I've got one here which I've created already, and this has, let me just turn the ins and outs off. This has 8. So I have 8 dummy clips here. It's a channel, it's got a redux, and each one of these is basically going to change the, I believe, the downsample rate of the redux to various different things. And I've also got another thing here, another guy here called a dummy injector. Now this is a little side mix for live patch that I made for my live performance. So when I perform live, I use 12 separate tracks, and they're all playing audio. And there's 6 lots of each type of groupings. We've got bass, kick, percussion, synths, tech like glitchy shit, and then rest. And yeah, so that's what I use as a dummy injector. And this allows me to map one parameter to 2 certain values and another parameter to 2 certain values, and then when I hit the button, it will swap those parameters around. And I mainly use that for controlling the volume here and the send here. So for example, if I hit bass here, you'll notice the volume goes down on the bass track and the send A goes up to 100%, and I can turn it off and on, and I can MIDI assign that to a button. So it's really easy. And the reason I have it going to a send is if I turn on my sends over here, oh yep, so we've got an A send over here. The A send simply has audio routing where the audio from A send goes back to the dummy injector. So by turning this on and off, I'm sending the audio all the way over to the send, but I'm turning the volume down on the master, and then the master is sending it, this A return is sending it back to the dummy injector, and then if you'll notice the dummy injector, it sends the routing to the Redux. So you can get really complex with your routing signals. And this is really handy because it means you can just quickly send something to these dummy clips. So just as a quick example, and make sure this is set to master. So if I hit this bass A, now it's going through that dummy track, and I can play with these. So it goes from various degrees of intensity through that. Now, I took it a step further here, and what I did is I created not just one dummy track with one effect, but once this loads up, you'll be able to see I made 16. So there's 16 individual dummy tracks here. Remember, they're all audio tracks, and each audio track is sending the audio into the next one. So just as I said before, when I want to send something to this route of 16, it goes to the dummy send, and then that goes to the injector. The injector sends it to this guy, and then it goes to this guy, and this guy, and this guy. It goes all the way through up to number 16, and then at 16 it goes through the master out. So, and what I've done is each one of these effects, I mean, it's a very personal thing, but each one of these effects kind of complements what the previous one was. So, for example, the beat repeat here is a good way of kind of capturing a part of what you're feeding it. So you could just kind of loop kind of a quarter of a bar or a 16th of a bar. And then I've got an EQ. So this is good for, say, I just want the highs to play. And then we've got a gate which rhythmically gates it, a redux, a filter, a reverb, chorus, and so on. So this is just how I kind of, in my mind, see like a series of effects that would be really cool for live performance. So that's what I've got there. And just to give you an idea of how this works, so again, what I'll do is I'll send the beat through it this time. I'll actually even mute the bass, so we can just use one of these beat repeats here. So that's just good to get a little bit of variation. The EQs, you can take out the bass. Really handy. The gate's quite hard to get right without quantizing, but I'll explain why I've got quantizing off in a minute. And then we've got a bit of a swingy one. Anyway, the redux, which we were playing with before. And it goes all the way down. We've got reverbs. Let's turn a bunch of these on at once and get it crazy. Filter sweeps. So you can see how you can very quickly take something and just mangle it into something which is totally not what you originally had. So, you know, I mean, I've got a drum beat and I've got whatever the hell that is. It sounds horrible, but it's cool. So that's the idea of like having multiple dummy clips routed up. And in my live set, I have kind of a dummy area where this happens. So, and I have my 12 tracks, and I can send any one of these 12 tracks over to this area and just really start experimenting. And you don't just have to suddenly send it over there as well. You can very subtly kind of bring up the send, you know, slowly bring it in, see if it's going to sound okay, start tweaking with some stuff, and kind of add layers to your music based on audio, which is usually the hard thing to do, is how can you process audio in a live situation without just doing the generic chuck a filter over it, chuck a phaser, glitch it up a bit. So this way you can get really, really interesting results. So the next step for this is I was thinking, right, okay, well, let me just turn all these off. I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if I could sequence these dummy clips? So these dummy clips are already kind of presets of parameters, but wouldn't it be good if I could have a preset of sequences of these parameters? And as we can use follow actions, sure. So let's see, I can choose all these clips and I can pick a follow action. Just go next, make it really short, and just hit play. I mean, that's one way, but the follow actions were kind of limited. So we've got next, we've got previous, we've got any, which is probably the most fun with these dummy clips. You can just have it go random. I'll put it on any and make it really short. Make sure I select them all first. I mean, that's a cool kind of random element you could add into it, but with randomness, it can be quite hard to tame sometimes. So I was kind of thinking to myself, well, what's a way that I could actually sequence these in a particular order? And the idea I came up with was using Max for Live. Very briefly, Max for Live is it's a way that you can build your own components within Ableton Live. You can build your own effects, you can build your own utilities, synth samplers. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can almost build as long as you've got the time and patience. And yeah, it takes a little bit of learning. So how can we do this? So what I'm going to show you is this patch I created. So I'm going to introduce a new MIDI track before this Redux. So I've called it basically MIDI note to clip slot trigger. And I'm dropping this into a MIDI track before that audio track that we had there. And what this does is it's a very simple patch, and I'll open it up and show you in a moment. But what it does is it just sits on this MIDI track. It's been told, okay, I need to affect the clip slots of the track to the right of me, so the next track. And it listens for MIDI notes, and it listens for particular MIDI notes, specifically MIDI notes 0 to 7, which is C-2 up to G, I believe. So it waits for those notes, and if it gets one of those notes, it will trigger either clip slot 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on the track after it, which of course is this Redux track. So to give you an example, I'm just going to double click and insert a new MIDI clip here. I'm going to scroll right down to the bottom. I used C-2 just because it's usually a range that isn't used that much when you're actually working with MIDI notes for music. So I'm just going to put a C, C sharp, D, and a D sharp. And hopefully if I hit play, so this particular device is picking up those MIDI notes and triggering clip slots depending on when they actually play. So how does this all work? So I'm going to open up the hood here and give you a quick rundown of how this patch works. Get rid of the colors. So this is what you see when you first open it up. So Max for Live has two modes. It has a presentation mode where it's kind of the end product, and this particular patch only needs two things. It doesn't even need the number, but it has the number that's currently playing, and it has a recalibrate button in case you add any more tracks in between it and you need to kind of quickly initialize it. So this is the presentation mode, but this is where the guts is, and this is the actual patch itself. So this is where it happens, and it's a pretty basic patch on the grand scheme of things and how complicated these patches can get. But just to give you a quick run through of how it works, all the white text you currently see is just commenting. So I've overly commented this just so I can run through it myself, and hopefully you can read it. The stuff in blue is stuff that actually does something, and the stuff in yellow is just kind of spitting out information to give you an idea of what's happening. I'm just going to play that MIDI clip again. Okay, so let's play that. What I'll do is I'll not have any sound playing while I explain this. So that's currently playing. Go back to our Max for Live stuff here. So Max for Live has, it's a bunch of things that you create and then connect together in various paths to get the result you want. That's a really basic rundown of it. And they have these things called objects here. So this is an object, and an object it does something. It has a particular purpose, and there's all kinds of things. You can have objects that generate kind of sine waves. You can have objects that do mathematical functions. But this particular object right at the start here is it's called alive.thisDevice, and it's a very basic object. What it does is when this patch is initially loaded, so when you first load it in, it sends out something called a bang out this outlet here. So these things have inlets where it takes information, then it usually does something to the information, and then it outputs it out the left outlet, the bottom outlets here. And this one, what it does is it sends a bang, and a bang is the way of Max's way of kind of giving something a jolt, or like sending like a do something, like a poke or a oi, you know, it's kind of a signal that something needs to happen. And you'll see this bang is getting fed into this message box here, and in a message box is where you can type text or information or instructions. And this one says path live this device. So this is once the patch is loaded, it's sending this information, this text, into this object here called a live path. Now, a live path, what it does is it takes a particular path of something within the project. So everything has a path. You know, if let's say that phaser I had, it would be this project, it would be this live set, it would be track 6, it would be the first device, and let's say I played with the frequency parameter, it would be parameter number, blah, blah, blah. So that's what this live path will take a path that you send it, and it will spit out something called an ID, and you can see the ID here, because everything in Ableton Live, when you're working with Max for Live, has a particular ID. It doesn't matter if it's a track or a clip slot or a parameter or anything. Everything has this specific ID. And once you know what that ID is, you can get information from that thing, or you can change it, or you can do crazy shit with it. So you really need to get these IDs in order to actually do something. What this is doing is it's sending right, I want to know the path of this device that I've created, this MIDI note to clip slot trigger. It's trying to find the path of it. So it gets the ID of the path, spits it into this live object, it tells it to get a path, and then that spits out where it is. And this is what it spits out here. It says, okay, well this device we're on the live set, it's track number 6, and it's device 0, which is the first device. So now I know where this thing is. It's good, because that means I can extract this track 6, because I want to know what track this device is actually on, because I want it to be able to manipulate the next one. So what we do is we can unpack it with this object here. It takes all of this information and unpacks it into its various segments. So you see how this is all segmented up. I'm interested in the thing that comes after tracks, because it's a number 6. I want that 6 number, because that's going to let me know what to do and how to get track 7. So that comes out here. I'll skip through this a bit. So this goes here. So it goes, all right, okay, the current track number is number 6. I want to mess with track number 7. So I add another object, which is basic, +1. Feed it through there, and it gives me 7. And that's good. So now we can take the 7 and we can pack it into another instruction, another path, and it outputs this message here, which basically says when a note comes in. So it's taking the note in here. You can see this is the raw value. So again, C-2 would be note 0, and then C# -2 would be note 1, for example. So this is what is currently being fed. It converts it into single numbers starting at 0. And that's coming in. It's coming into this message box, which has a variable, which is $1. So that means anything that gets fed into this, replace this $1 with the number that's coming in, which is the note in is doing. That splits it up. It finds the path of whatever clip slot I currently need based on the note that is playing, and that sends it to this live object here. But it also does another thing called a call fire, which says find that clip slot and then fire it. And that's it. So basically that's it's a very, very pretty simple patch. It's a very straightforward linear type thing. You're just trying to find out what notes are playing, convert those notes into clip slot numbers, find the paths and ID of those clip slot numbers, and make sure that they fire when you get an individual note. So that's I'm gonna just wrap that up for the Max for Live thing, and it's such a cool thing, man. Like it's really neat for coming up with ways to do stuff that you just can't do natively in Ableton Live. You know, I mean, Ableton can't cater to everyone and create everything that people want. So they just said, well, okay, here's some tools you can use to build your own tools. Go for it. See what you can do. You know. And it's really neat. It takes a while to get your head around, but if you've got a little bit of patience, it can get pretty exciting. Cool. So that's the patch, and that's sequencing that. So I'm going to show you now what it looks like when there's 16 of these. Okay, so now we have a trigger track for each one of these dummy clips. So I can go in just like before. Let's just throw in some notes here. Boom, 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 and let's just get this playing. Send the bass over. We'll do the redux again. We'll make the redux go kind of crazy. Start with G. Let's play with the reverb. Let's add a trigger in here. Let's add a little bit of reverb just at the end. the beat back in. So you can see how you can get all of these really singing together, and this is a little bug which I just realized this morning, is I haven't actually made the patch good enough so that when you hit the space bar it stops all the time, because it's continuously sending the dummy clips to play signal. So I will update that. So that's all good, and that's kind of a really good way. And you can record these in. You know, I can go over here, make sure the track is armed, use my computer keyboard, and I can just simply trigger these dummy clips using my keyboard. I could use a keyboard over here. You could have 128 dummy clips and 128 range keyboard, and you could just use that keyboard to jam them out, hit record, jam out a sequence, and then keep looping it over and over and over. In fact, I'll do that very quickly to show you. Let's choose this guy as a contender. So turn them all off. So we're playing this loop here. I'm just going to hit record and go. Hit play, and of course I've got quantize on, so that's all going to be perfectly in time now, and I've just recorded a sequence. And if I'm not happy with it, I can go and do another one here. And I can go, I want to go back to the one I just recorded before. So it's basically giving you a way to have presets of presets, if you like. And just to take it one step further, I came up with this idea just before the push came out, and then the push came out, and it has this fantastic drum sequencer mode on it. There's the push there. That's what it looks like. Hello. So it has this really cool step sequencer mode on it. So where it turns 16 of the pads into actually things that you can drum on, and there's an actual step sequencer. I'm like, man, that would be fantastic if I could actually use that with this system, with this strange dummy clip system. And it's actually quite easy to do. So I'll show you what I've done there. So with the step sequencer mode, the push needs to be on a track that currently has a drum rack on it in order for it to go into that step sequencer mode. And I was like, well, that's okay. What we can do is we can create a track like this, which has a blank drum rack on it, but with this trigger track over here, which takes the MIDI notes and turns it into clip slots, all we have to do is take the MIDI from that drum track, which is called sequencer 1. So the MIDI is actually getting sent from here into this track, and then of course we need to have monitor in on this track, and then this one is going to convert the MIDI notes into these clip slot things. So that means I can go into the sequencer mode, and if I bring up the QuickTime here, let me just pick a different one here. I've got key binding set to each one of these things here, so I can hit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, quickly jump to that sequence track for that particular dummy clip, and I can just kind of jam out and record things on the thing. So let's just have a go here. I've got a different track for you here. Okay, and I'm just going to send that synth line over, like so. I'm going to turn my routing off just so we can see everything in its full. So let's just go over to that, where are we? To the Redux again. So by hitting 4, see I've key bound 4 to each one of these sequences. By hitting 4, I can go over there, and it's all ready to go. So now I can just hit notes on the thing. It's a bit of a shame that menu bar. Do you know how to get rid of the menu bar off the thing? Oh, that's a much more practical solution. Cool. Okay. So let me just record one of those really quickly. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to quickly record some stuff and move along. Can't guarantee it'll sound awesome, but hopefully it'll show off what I've just told you. And then I hit record, and that didn't seem to record for me. There we go. My apologies. Let's try that again. And so I've got my first loop. Let's move across to the, say, the reverb. That's a fun one. And once again, I just have to hit record. And that'll do for that one, just a short loop. Let's move across to the, something a bit crazy. What do we got? A frequency shifter, why not? That sounds fun. And I'm just gonna record like crazy. And what else we got? We've got a grain delay, we've got a delay which changes its pitch depending on the shortness. I'll just skip ahead to this one because I know it's going to be fun. Let's try it. And so on and so on and so on. And right at the end I've got a vocoder. This one I still have to perfect a little bit more because this goes really aggressive, but I'll do it for fun. And then right at the end, I've just got a delay, just a very simple delay with a sync beat delay, just so we can do kind of. And we can bring the original synth sound back in now. We've got this weird shit going on. Awesome. So that is the concept behind it. And I'm still really working on this. I'm still developing it, still trying to find the best configuration of things to have. Obviously that example got a bit crazy and out of control, and it's not as drastic as I'd usually do things in a live situation. But just to give you a really good idea of how you can really push it and layer things up. I mean, when you've got all 16 of these happening at once, you can get some really crazy stuff. You can turn a kick drum into something which totally sounds awesome and nothing like a kick drum. It's also really CPU unintensive because is unintensive the word or is it unintensive? Sounds good to me. And yeah, so it's really low on CPU, which is great because it's all using just native stuff. You don't have any third-party plugins, which you know, can be a reason why shit crashes, and you don't want that in a live situation. And yeah, I mean, you can have the next step I want to create these I want to be able to use MIDI note velocity to actually change stuff within the clips as well. So at the moment, I've just got the MIDI notes triggering the individual dummy clips, but it'd be really cool to be able to send the velocity to actually change like a core parameter, which is fun, like kind of the intensity of something, and then you can use the dummy clips to kind of choose other things around the side. So that's what I've been working on, and I hope you guys got something from that, and that's it. Cheers.